Hey y'all, so today I thought we would go ahead and finish up chapter, what are we on, 3? Discussing the tasks, where we've been breaking down the story of Vasilisa. And we went ahead and did the tasks 1 through 4 in the previous video. So we're going to go ahead and start at task 5 and finish this on out through the end of the chapter. And then we're going to come back to the actual story, and hopefully we'll have some insight as to what all the symbolism is as we're actually going through the story and really getting some deeper meaning in all of those elements. So I just wanted us to be prepared and to be kind of in the right mindset as to the meanings behind all of the symbolism in the story. So I hope you're doing good. It's when I was flipping through this earlier and getting ready to make this video for you all, I was drawn to a particular theme with these last tasks. And that theme to me is strength. So I thought I'd go ahead and mention that to you. You can keep that in mind as we're reading through. And I'm curious if you'll actually draw the same conclusion and overarching meaning from it, just like I did. So before we get into the 5th task, I did want to mention, and the reason I'm doing this is because it's mentioned all throughout these tasks, so we need to have a little bit better understanding. But Baba Yaga is in this book referred to as not just wild woman, but the old wild woman, like the old one who knows. So think of Baba Yaga in this context as just a not only an old woman and not only an old wise woman, but an old wise woman who is fearsome. And if you actually Google Baba Yaga, it's really interesting because she's almost represented like sort of like a Hollywood kind of witch, you know. It's I believe it originated in old Slavic tales. That's what my research is showing so far, that Baba Yaga is just a really, really old theme found in a lot of old stories throughout various cultures, actually, but specifically I'm reading about Slavic traditions. But she is kind of seen like an old scary hag, and I say hag because that term is used in this book, so it's not my term, but she's so knowing. It's almost like it's really a beautiful thing, because who's really afraid of truth except liars, you know what I mean? So she commands that level of respect, and because of everything she knows through her age and maturity and experience and everything, through her knowledge, she's seen as fearsome, because she's going to call everybody out. You know, she's going to call BS out, and she's not going to be naive whatsoever. So that's kind of a just an important part of all these tasks. So as we're reading through, and you hear the old wise mother, the hag, the old knowing one, old wild woman, Baba Yaga, all those terms, it's referring to like the state that we can reach once we have experienced enough in life and we've learned enough in life to really be able to see through people's manipulations, I mean, to the core, and call things out for what they really are, because there's so much in this world that's not true. So this is like the ultimate truth that we are able to achieve. Does that make sense? So it's really windy today, and it's pretty chilly, but I thought I would try to film outside today. I just love being outside. Hopefully it'll work out. My camera keeps shaking, but we'll see what happens. So I have to actually move locations and cut the film, but we'll try. Okay, so that's a little bit of background on Baba Yaga, and so the 5th task is called Serving the Non-Rational. And it says the psychic tasks of this time are of learning at this time of learning are these: staying with the hag goddess. So here she's referred to as the hag goddess. So staying with the hag goddess, acclimating to the great wildish powers of the feminine psyche, coming to recognize her, and then in parentheses, your power and the powers of inner purifications, unsoiling, sorting, nourishing, building energy and ideas. It says washing the yaga's clothes, cooking for her, cleaning her house, and sorting out the elements. So to me, this is symbolic of not being uncomfortable, being upfront and close and personal with Baba Yaga and all that she stands for, because remember that narcissistic lens. That's how we're looking at this book, is that way. Because when you're naive and you're going along, but your gut's saying something's not right and you can't put your finger on it, as soon as you start seeing the truth of manipulations in your life and the fact that you've been very naive and taken advantage of and possibly harmed and all these things, it's a scary realization to come to. I mean, it truly is. And if you've been through it, I don't have to tell you that. So I think that's kind of what this means. And that's where I part of the reason I drew the word strength from this section, because you do have to be strong. It can rock your world when you come into this awareness. So that fifth task is you've woken up and you've had your world shaken up, and you've faced how scary this realization is, and then you're ready to accept it, to truly accept it, and not just accept it, but spend time with it, and which is symbolized, like I was just reading to you, washing the hag's clothes, and cleaning her house. In other words, you're willing to spend some time with it, and really absorb everything that she has to teach, and you're not going to run. So it's in the process building your own wisdom and your own strength. Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit more here under the fifth task section, and it says, to wash something is a timeless purification ritual. It not only means to purify, it also means, like baptism, from the Latin baptiza, to drench, to permeate with a spiritual numen and mystery. In the tale, the washing is the first task. It means to make taut again, T-A-U-T, taut again, that which has become slackened from the wearing. The clothes are like us, worn and worn until our ideas and values are slackened by the passing of time. The renewal, the reviving, takes place in the water, in the rediscovering of what we really hold to be true, what we really hold sacred. So during this time, it's so transformative for us, whether we really want it to be or not. We know whether it and like ultimately you want it to be, but I say that because in the beginning it's so scary. It's like hard to admit that you found these things out about this person that may be very close to you or have been very close to you for many years. It's hard to accept, is my point. And so ultimately it is transformative, and ultimately I believe that we see the blessings that can come from it, and how it transforms us and frees us, and so I thought that was kind of a neat little paragraph there. And then we're going into the sixth task, and that's called separating this from that. And it says, in this part of the tale, Baba Yaga requires two very demanding tasks of Vasilisa. A woman's psychic tasks are these: learning fine discrimination, separating one thing from the other with finest discernment, learning to make fine distinctions in judgment, sorting the mildewed corn from the good corn, and sorting the poppy seeds from a pile of dirt. So we'll get into all that when we read this story. observing the power of the unconscious and how it works even when the ego is not aware. It says more learning about life and death. So it's just deepening that discernment, once you come to that awareness. So trying to be prepared to grab my camera before it falls over. So windy today. Okay, and then I want to read to you a little bit more underneath this section here, under the 6th task, and it says, this is one of the loveliest phrasings in this story. The fresh corn, mildewed corn, poppy seed, and dirt are all remnants of an ancient healing apothecary. They are used as balms, salves, infusions, or salves, really, I think is the way it's pronounced. Balms, salves, infusions, and poultices to hold other medicines on the body. And as metaphors, they are also medicines for the mind. Some nourish, others put to rest. Some cause languor? I don't know. Others stimulation. They are facets of the life-death-life cycles. Baba Yaga is not only asking Vasilisa to separate this from that, to know the difference between things of like kind, such as real love, from false love, or nourishing life from spoiled life. She is also asking her to distinguish one medicine from another. So kind of like what I was just saying, finding the lessons from this whole experience, finding how this can be transformative for us in beautiful ways and good ways to prepare us for a beautiful future beyond experiencing this narcissistic abuse, and understanding that even though it's very difficult, if we can pull through and be strong enough, then we can see various experiences through our healing process as medicine, and I just think it's beautiful. All the symbolism in this story, just it's so rich. The 7th task is called Asking the Mysteries. It says the tasks of this time are questioning and trying to learn more about the life-death-life nature and how it functions. Vasilisa asks about the horsemen, so we'll read that in the story. Learning the truth about being able to understand all the elements of the wild nature. So this is that deeper understanding. It's kind of like, I've said this before, I feel like just through life, we can truly believe that we understand something, and we may. And then as life goes on and we experience more and we grow and mature, it's like that same exact topic, that same exact point that we thought we understood, we reach another higher level of understanding. So it's not that the first level was wrong per se, it's just that it was like a basic understanding and we didn't know it was basic until we reached that second level of understanding. It's like a deepening of wisdom. And so that's how I view what they're talking about here in this 7th task. And so and then it says, if you've got the book, it's on page 103, the hardcover. It says, there are also 2 deaths in the story, that of the original Too Good Mother and also that of the step family, which again, this is all symbolism. Yet we see easily that the deaths are proper and that they ultimately cost the girl a much fuller life. So this letting live, letting die is very important. It is the basic and natural rhythm which women are meant to understand and live. Grasping this rhythm lessens fear, for we anticipate the future, and the ground swells and the emptying out it will hold. The doll and the yaga are the wild mothers of all women. The doll, again, represents intuition, okay? They provide the penetrating, intuitive gifts from the personal level as well as the divine. This is the extreme paradox and teaching of the instinctual nature. It is a sort of wolf Buddhism, that is, one what is one is both. What is two makes three. What lives shall die, and what dies shall live. So it's about the cycles of life, and specifically, this wind's crazy today. Specifically, being strong enough to walk away from these toxic relationships, and being hopeful for the new life that comes when you get real and you allow things that are not good for you anymore to die, to end. And it does take strength, and sometimes you just have to. It's more than that. Sometimes it's a life-saving situation, a life-saving thing where you have no choice but to leave. And other times it's not so much that, but as sometimes people just, they're just stuck, and they've been gaslit, and they're blaming themselves, and it just takes strength in that regard to truly trust their intuition, that they know deep down that it's not right for them, and that they are being abused, emotionally, psychologically, whatever it is. So, because the covert is very confusing and difficult sometimes. So I totally pull strength as a theme throughout these last few tasks. So this wind's going to take down this camera one of these minutes. I just know it. There. Okay. So, see where I was here. Okay, so next we have the 8th task, and it's called Standing on All Fours. And again, remember, she's always referencing wolves because that's the whole theme of this book, It says, the tasks of this part of the tale are these: taking on immense power to see and affect others. And then in the story, that's going to be related to when she receives a skull. Okay. Looking at one's life situations in this new life. So, I'm sorry, in this new light. I read that totally wrong. So, looking at one's life situations in this new light. So that's just your new awareness. And when it says standing on all fours, I believe this means, you've learned, you've strengthened yourself in the process, you've learned some more, and you've accepted, and you've sat with it, and you've made the decision now to act upon it, is the way I see this. Standing on all fours, like you're strong. You've gone through the healing process, and you've transformed along the way yourself. Just naturally going through this is what happens. It's kind of like that's the result of going through all of this and healing and everything. You'll forever have this new awareness, forever. So standing on all fours, kind of a inspirational way to look at the outcome of all this, right? Okay, so it says, having now, through serving the yaga, meaning, remember, staying with this deep knowing and accepting it fully and not turning away from it, being strong enough to accept what needs to end and moving forward. It calls us to our true strength. So having now, through serving the yaga, created a capacity within herself which she did not have before, Vasilisa receives a portion of the wild hag goddess's power. Some women are afraid this deep knowing via instinct and intuition will cause them to be reckless or thoughtless, but this is an unfounded fear. Quite the contrary. Lack of intuition, lack of sensitivity to cycles, or not following one's knowing causes choices which turn out poorly, even disastrously. More often, this Yagayan kind of knowledge moves women by small increments, and most often gives direction by giving clear pictures of what lies beneath or behind the motives, ideas, actions, and words of others. If the instinctive psyche says beware, then the woman must pay heed. If the deep intuition says do this, do that, go this way, stop here, go forward, the woman must make corrections to her plan as needed. Intuition is not to be consulted once and then forgotten. It is not disposable. It is to be consulted at all steps along the way. So once you've come back into connection with that intuition inside and you fully grasped it, you feel good about it, you feel where you can really trust yourself again. It's not something you're just going to check in with here and there. It's going to become a way of life for you. I think that's what that means, each step along the way. And I think what that was just talking about is you're certainly not going to be in a hurry in life anymore, just not questioning things. It's just going to become part of your new nature. You're going to be steadfast, holding strong to your intuition and making progress in life, and as part of that life, the end part, the life, death, life cycle, because you've now shifted into that life cycle. You're ready for what's next in life beyond all this, and you're just going to be steady, and you're going to be pacing yourself, and you're going to be trusting your intuition along the way. And it's just a new way of life. It's just the new you after this transformation. So then we have the 9th task, Recasting the Shadow. It says, these are the psychic tasks of this time. Using one's acute vision or fiery eyes, I believe that's going to wind up being related to that skull in the story that she receives, to recognize and react to the negative shadow of one's own psyche and or negative aspects of persons and events in the outer world, recasting the negative shadows in one's psyche with hag fire. So, it means on this basic level of understanding as we're going through prior to the story together, to me this just means just deepening your trust in yourself, in your intuition, just deepening that. Okay, I'm going to read some more to you under the 9th task. It's going to be a little bit richer context for us. It says, each woman who retrieves her intuition and yoga-like powers reaches a point where she is tempted to throw them away. For what is the use of seeing and knowing all these things? This skull light is not forgiving. In its light, the old are elderly, the beautiful lush, the silly foolish, the drunk are drunken, the unfaithful are infidels. Things which are incredible are noted as miracles. Skull light sees what it sees. It is an eternal light, and right out front, shining ahead of a woman, like a presence which goes a little bit before her and reports back to her what it has found ahead. It is her perpetual reconnaissance. Yet when one sees and senses thusly, then one has to work to do something about what one sees. To possess good intuition, goodly power causes work. It causes work firstly in the watching and comprehending of negative forces and imbalances both inward and outward. Secondly, it causes striving and the gathering up of will in order to do something about what one sees, be it for good or balance or to allow something to die. It is true, I will not lie to you, it is easier to throw away the light and go to sleep. It is true. It is hard to hold the skull light out before us sometimes, for with it we clearly see all sides of ourselves and others, both the disfigured and the divine, and all conditions in between. Yet with this light, the miracles of deep beauty in the world and in humans come to consciousness. With this penetrating light, one can see past the bad action to the good heart. One can espy, the sweet spirit crushed beneath the hatred. This reminds me of The Grinch, because I was just talking about that movie, Dr. Seuss, the one with Jim Carrey. He's so bitter and angry, but deep down he's got a good heart. He's just scorned because of all the stuff he's been through in life. It reminds me of that. So it says one can espy the sweet spirit crushed beneath the hatred. One can understand much instead of being perplexed only. This light can differentiate layers of personality, intention, and motives in others. That's some deep discernment right there. Not to fool ourselves into thinking we can ever truly truly know what's in a person's heart to the point of like reading their mind. I mean, that's not possible. But I just think as you grow and you learn and you observe and you experience, you're going to get wiser and wiser in this process. So it says it can determine consciousness and unconsciousness in self and others. It is the wand of knowing. It is the mirror in which all things are sensed. It is the deep, wild nature. Reminds me of animals that can sense, a storm brewing, things like that, before even humans. And yeah, it talks here again about the fiery skull, pointing out where there are betrayals brewing and envy and, things like that, where, maybe you've got an acquaintance in your life that, everything on the surface seems okay, but it's like you just have this unsettled feeling about them and maybe their intentions with you. And so I think that's kind of a good example. And, in the end, if something does go down and you find out they were envious of you and they were talking about you behind your back or whatever, ideally we would get to the point where we can see this coming before it happens. So, yeah, it says, it is these knowings which are the most difficult to face. When it was talking earlier about, being able to withstand. And my example was an acquaintance, and then just imagine if it's your spouse or a close family member, and that gets really hard to accept. And that's where you got to pull that strength in and do what you need to do. If you need to let something end, because otherwise, maybe there's a greater plan. If you're a spiritual person and you believe in a higher power, maybe the divine can't bless you in the way that is intended because you're tied up. You're tied up with these toxic people. And so, this whole time you're feeling this pull to end it. And it's just reconciling, because the covert toxic people are the ones who, are going to fool you to the degree that things may actually seem okay. They're never going to seem great, right? But they may seem okay and not bad enough to leave on the surface. But there's little things all along the way that feed into that intuition you have that, deep down it's not right. It's just not right. And then I have marked the last paragraph in chapter 3, and I just want to read that to you. It says, to let things die is the theme at the end of the tale. Vasilisa has learned well. Does she collapse into a fit of high-pitched shrieking as the skull burns into the malicious ones? No. What must die, dies. How does one make such a decision? One knows. La que sabe knows. Ask within for her advice. She is the mother of the ages. Nothing surprises her. She has seen it all. For most women, to let die is not against their natures. It is only against their training. This can be reversed. We all know in los ovarios, in our ovaries, when it is time for life, when it is time for death. We might try to fool ourselves for various reasons, but we know. By the light of the fiery skull, we know. So, a big part of this process is just getting real with yourself, understanding that, it's tough stuff. This, admitting some of these hard truths. But these people who choose to live by deceiving others and manipulating others and being selfish, and it's a choice. It's a choice, and once we accept that, then we can also make the choice on our end to stop enabling that and to stop, making excuses in hopes that things will change, because you can't change another person. Another person's only going to change if they want to change, period. And so just so many lessons, from these experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. We're already at 30 minutes, and camera only fell over once with the wind. And then I'm going to be going back and filming about the story in the chapter. And hopefully it won't be super long because we've already hit these tasks. So we'll just kind of lightly go through the tasks once we've read the story and break it down from there. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you got something out of it. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd appreciate it if you want to subscribe, if you would do that. And then you can always hit the bell to be notified when I post new content, and I try to post at least 2 or 3 videos a week. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. See you soon.